Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. We'll get right into it, but before I introduce my guests, you know how it is. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helps us bring you this segment. And they're offering you, as always, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Just reach out to them at any of their branches. Let's start with right here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi. Chronomabwe here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji Estate, there's Tema Community 22, there's Tichiman Hanswa, and Esiamanzima. You can also reach them on these phone numbers, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And the start of the newspaper review. Joining us this morning, we have energy analyst Kojo Poku. Good morning, Kojo. Kojo, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ben, good morning. Can I hear you? How are you?
I am well. Good to see you. We also have... Go ahead. Go ahead, Kojo.
No, good to see you. Good to see you, Ben.
Right. We also have joining the conversation Wisdom Kofi Dogbe. He is a finance analyst or a financial analyst. He also joins the conversation from far, far away. I like using that because of the Shrek animated movie. Far, far away. Anyway, Kofi, good morning to you as well.
Good morning, gentlemen.
So since I am referring to your colleague, your counterpart as Kojo, so I'm sticking to Kofi for you today. Kojo and Kofi.
Works for me.
All right, so let's do this. Let's have your thoughts on any topical matters, pertinent matters you'd like to share your thoughts on. I'll start with you, Dr. Dogbe, and then I'll go to Kojo.
Ben, I'd like to comment briefly on a story that I read about the strong performance of the banking sector, despite the economic downturn. And I'm not surprised to hear that banks like GCB and other banks have done quite well when it comes to the 2023 performances. Even though it's been a challenging economy for most businesses, resulting in declining asset quality amid prohibitive interest rates, which is not surprising for the most part. Then the part that caught my attention is that some of these strong performances of the banks are fueled by, deposit growth and loan growth, if I recall. When it comes to deposit growth, I'll be more interested in better understanding what is causing, customers to hold higher deposits instead of investing into high-performing assets. Is it because the economy is not doing well? And so there isn't much of investment options available to them. So they prefer to hold their assets in deposits and wait for the economy to recover. And then on the loan or credit growth aspect, I'm also struggling to understand if there was indeed a significant growth because rates are pretty prohibitive at this point, right? So who is taking these loans? And what are they investing in that is producing the right returns to service these loans after their profits are adjusted for inflation and other drivers? Just a few questions that I have, and I would like to research these further.
Thank you for your thoughts. Let me hear from you, Kojo. Any bits that you'd like to share with us this morning before we get into the papers?
Well, there is a video that is going viral. A lady in the Tema area who purportedly or allegedly was abused by the police in the Tema area, and that video is very uncomfortable. I think
is it the one with some young boys, some teens? Is that what you're referencing? Some 4 people?
It was GH1. It's a GH1 lady interviewing the lady. Apparently, the police thought she was part of an armed robbery, and she said that she wasn't. And they used these whole clippers to basically punch, to threaten to punch her ears and stuff like that.
Okay,
I actually forwarded the video to the I actually forwarded the video to the IGP yesterday, and I hope we get some feedback from the police on what they are doing. Look, our police are to protect us, and they should know that there's a fundamental human right where every citizenry is presumed innocent unless found guilty by a competent a competent court. So if you're a police person and you arrest somebody based on an allegation, even if you are basically think the person is guilty, please, let's stop the beatings and the harassment and all the things that we've been doing. I think it's really, for 2024 Ghana, I think the police should act much better.
And just a quick add-on to that point, it's just been a number of months when we had that situation where a gentleman had been arrested and his wife or his girlfriend went to pay him a visit, and I think there was some tussle, the police got offended, and she lost part of her ear. I don't know whether you didn't see that story, but those are some of the very sad developments. I think she was even thrown into police cells or something. I could be wrong, but I do know that I do recall the bit about the ear. So the police service is doing a lot, but some of these incidents leave a very sour taste in the mouths of people. But that said, let's get into the papers very quickly. I'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. 3 million children above 5 to receive Ghana cards. NHIA picks up cost. There's also easy to conduct voter transfer for security personnel and others. Cyprus president, and we could simply say Cypriot, shares Ayoko Boche's Commonwealth vision, and minister rallies support for economic upturn. On the back page, Nifa SHS gets new ICT center, and there's Atimpoku Esikuma Road still open to traffic. Atimpoku brings a lot of memories. Reminds me of going back to school at Bishop Herman back then. And that's according to the ministry. But let's get into the stories now. The Minister of Defense, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, has rallied the support of Ghanaians as the country continues to implement the 3-year program with the International Monetary Fund aimed at restoring economic growth and debt sustainability. He said while the government appreciated constructive criticisms, comments that talked down the economy were not in the best interest of anybody. Using the recent decline of the local currency as an example, Dr. Amin Adam said the Cedi's struggles could be partly blamed on negative comments and speculations from some sections of the public. He said, "Good people of Ghana, in this journey towards economic recovery and growth, we have faced challenges, but our resilience and determination have kept us strong. Let us continue to stand united in support of our government's efforts to steer our economy towards a brighter future," the minister stated. And Dr. Amin Adam was speaking at the joint press conference by the Ministry of Finance and the IMF on the approval of Ghana's second review by the executive board of the fund. When people say this, yes, technically I will support you. Let's not speak negatively about our country and our currency and all of that. But Dr. Amin Adam, did your end? What did they say in the past? You see, you can't expect different strokes for different folks. As you do to others, so it shall be done to you. And sometimes some of these things are, but by and large though, Dr. Amin Adam, I'm speaking to you directly here. The Cedi's woes have prevailed. There was a marginal gain, then it slumped 3-point-something% to the dollar. And since that time, as of last week, the last time I checked, it was hovering around 15.7, thereabouts. So I don't know what negativity you're talking about when people are hoarding money in their homes, the very people who should know better and all of that. I think you should look within before you look without. I do agree. Some of the negative talk affects the currency. Yes, hoarding and all of that. But hey, if you want to start from this, start from home. Let's look at other stories in there. I'll go to page 13 and take it from there. Let's quickly get there. So 3 million children above 5 to receive Ghana cards. Now, effective this month, children aged between 6 and 14 years will be issued Ghana cards for free. The National Health Insurance Authority has absorbed the cost of the issuance of the cards for an estimated 3 million children in the country to enable them to link up with the National Health Insurance Scheme to access primary health care. Consequently, the NHIA will pay 245 million Ghana cedis to the National Identification Authority to provide the Ghana cards to children in that age bracket. The Chief Executive Officer of the NHIA, Dr. Da Costa Abuaje, who disclosed this at a workshop for journalists and other stakeholders in Kumasi last Saturday, said the intervention formed part of measures by the authority to ensure universal health coverage for all. Good step. My only hope, because he's been in here talking to me in recent times and talking about the constraints financially and logistically. I support this. Fantastic. But Dr. Da Costa Abuaje, I'm hoping we are not doing too much so that you don't end up with financial constraints if the money flow stops. Because I know, the kidney bit and what do you even call it? I'll get the name. And everything that is being done. And now this one as well. If we have the funds, perfect, but let's not burn from both ends. EC to conduct voter transfer for security personnel and others, and the Electoral Commission will conduct a voter transfer exercise for prison inmates, security personnel, and students from July the 3rd to July the 5th, 2024. The Deputy Chairman of the EC in charge of corporate services, Dr. Bosman Asari, disclosed this to the Daily Graphic after an inter-party advisory committee meeting in Accra yesterday. He said the exercise would allow prison inmates to transfer their votes to the constituencies where they were being held, while security personnel who missed the previous transfer window would have the opportunity of transferring their votes. In addition, and this is where I'll end, he said the EC would set up machines in the 25 university campuses to enable students who registered in their hometowns but had not transferred their votes to do so, to enable them to vote on their various university campuses. So 3 stories for your reflection this morning. I'll start with you, Wisdom. Kofi, on this one.
But I think the Minister of Finance is right, when he called for Ghanaians to rally around the initiatives to help the economy recover. But when it comes to the city depreciation issue, I think we can all hope, and I mean hope because it is not a guarantee. We can only hope that the debt restructuring and the eventual release of this next tranche, of the IMF loan, I hope it will help stabilize the city a little bit. And I think we should be focused on addressing the underlying factors that are causing the decline of the city and not just blame each other. Look, I have a lot of respect for the finance minister, but I was shocked to hear him say that the city depreciation is caused by speculation and directly blaming, Honorable MP Isaac Adongo and the minority for inciting people and businesses to buy dollars in order to do business. I think that it is true that speculation has a role to play when it comes to the strength of a nation's currency. But in our own case, Ben, in the case of Ghana, it's not only a problem of speculation. Inflation is a key factor that we need to address. It's affecting the strength of the city, in a way that if inflation is low, it increases the purchasing power of the city, which makes it more attractive to investors. But with Ghana's current inflation rate, it is a main reason why the value of the city is down. And so unless we manage inflation more effectively, we may not see any significant recovery of the city anytime soon, Ben. And we should also continue pursuing policies that are sound enough to stabilize the economy, to ensure that we have an interest rate that are set at levels, that would encourage business growth, and also ensure that we have good balance between our exports and exports. These are the main factors that we should deal with, to stop the city depreciation and not only speculation, as the minister was trying to allude to.
Any reflections on the 3 million children above 5 to receive Ghana cards, and then the EC and the transfer of votes, or can I move on?
As far as the kids above 5 years old, I think it's a step in the right direction, right? Even here in the U.S., the moment you have a child in a hospital, one of the paperwork that you fill that same day is a national identification card, which we call a social security card. It comes pretty handy, and it also helps the health authorities to plan as far as resource allocation and other health planning is concerned. So I think that is a step in the right direction.
All right. Kojo, thoughts on these stories?
Ben, sometimes I think that you would basically help by educating against certain things, not to make it look like, hey, Mr. Minister, you did this, so it'll be done to you. I don't think it's right. I mean, if there was anything about this, what we call political equalization, you yourself will help to educate that the politicians should stop doing that. I don't think it's fair for you to say that, oh, the Minister of Finance, when he was in opposition, did this, so now that it's done to him, he shouldn't complain.
I think you can't have different strokes for different folks. You can't do one thing
you can, but
then when it goes against you, then you want other people to do. That is hypocrisy. That is hypocrisy.
You. No, I'm saying you. You as a media person, you as a host of a program, you educate against it, but you don't propagate it. That's what I'm saying.
I never propagated it. Let me correct. No. Hold for me, Kojo. I never propagated it. If you listen to me carefully, what I said was, I agree with him. Yet, you must bear in mind, if you want to do these things, start with yourself. Is that not what I said? Start from home.
Yes, but you said
that's
that
exactly what I said. So don't paint a picture as though I were
foot.
propagating. That is a foul word to use for what I said. I never propagated it. I said while agreeing with him, you can't, as politicians, keep shifting the goalposts. You do one thing and you expect to be treated differently.
Well, it's fine, but the point of the matter is that let's move on to the bit about the economy. Look, the economy has bounced back. The minister gave a very good press conference yesterday. And yes, we all know that when a currency is traded, and in Ghana, we run what you call a floating mechanism for our currency. So when something is traded, speculation play a big part. Even in New York, in Wall Street, what makes a share goes up or come down? Speculation is being part of it. Because the perception of whether a currency will do well, a perception of whether a commodity will do well, is speculation. It's an intangible process. So I think that when the minister comes out to say that, let's stop the speculation, because if you're looking at what actually drives, the minute there is a certain panic in the system, everybody rush to basically now convert their money into. And he's saying that, look, it doesn't augur well for all of us, so we should stop it. And I think it's the right advice to give. On the issue of the 3 million 5-year-olds that is supposed to get Ghana card, look, it's the second leg of the digitization drive that this government has. Not only are we saying that adults should have Ghana card, but let the young ones also have Ghana card so that when they get to voting age and age where they are going to get the bank accounts and all that, they already have the national identity number, which is the Ghana card number, which everybody should have. It will now be extended later to new. I think the newborn is done. The policy is that when you take a newborn to weigh in, at the weigh-in, you get a birth certificate number and a Ghana card number for a newborn. So you're looking at this policy to cover the entire population. So we start off with database. So we'll know the newborn, we'll know the death, and if we're able to link all these together, it will be good for our planning. So I don't think that there is an issue when it comes to national NHIS doing a lot of these things, and we would think that they might not have money. There's been proper planning that has gone into this. The dialysis cost that they've taken up is something very good that we should all champion, and also taking up the cost of the newborn. Because bear in mind, the Ghana card is now your NHIS card, so you don't need both. The reason that NHIS is taking on this is that now your Ghana card is your NHIS card. You don't need both. So it's a good thing to have a formalized economy. And I think we should all applaud them for the good work that Da Costa is doing.
All right, so let's quickly get into...
Quickly, right? Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Kofi, you have a reaction? Go ahead.
Quickly, Kojo, I work on Wall Street, right? So just to correct a point that you made, speculation is just one bit of the factors that you consider or you think about when you're thinking about economic growth, right? We always look at unemployment rate, we look at inflation rate, we look at exchange rate. So I don't think it is extremely accurate to focus only on speculation as the main driver.
But nobody's focusing on. He said one of the things. Nobody said you are speculating. He said one of the things that affects is speculation. We all know the factors, the physical, the external and internal factors that affect our currency. We know that. But he mentioned speculation as one of the things that affect the currency.
And also, I read his statements also after he finished talking. He said the main impact, the main effect, right, the main cause, he attributed that to speculation, and I thought that was a little bit inaccurate.
All right, gentlemen, let's move this forward. I've seen some stories. Flooding in Greater Accra, policy gaps and recommendations. It's a story by Richard Akwa Harrison. It makes for interesting reading. It's on page 7. And now I hear those around is it the Koli calling for efforts, else once the rains start heavily, which they sometimes do, there's going to be trouble. As for, I always go back to the point that many years ago, sad development. This was around maybe, I could be wrong, I have to check again, 2012, 13 or 2010. A Canadian was betting that every year the Greater Accra region, Accra, would flood. And he was right, so they had to cancel the bet. They had to cancel that bet. Yeah. a Canadian, betting on our agony. And indeed, if that company had allowed him to continue betting till today, he'd be winning every year. But anyway, some international stories and then we move on. France's far right celebrates lead, seeks majority. I have my own concerns about what's happening in France. Emmanuel Macron called for early elections. Now, France's far right is in pole position after the first round of parliamentary elections that confirmed their dominance in French politics and brought them to the gates of power. Supporters of Marine Le Pen's anti-immigration national rally, that is RN, cheered as she said the president's, quote, Macronist bloc had been all but wiped out. And RN won 33.1% of the vote, with a left-wing alliance behind on 28% and the Macron camp behind on 20.76%. And this is what Jordan Bardella said. I aim to be prime minister for all the French people if the French give us their vote. And the interesting thing here, the RN's party leader, who could become the next prime minister, can any of you guess how old he is?
Yes, 28 years.
28. It's just interesting.
Yes,
Yesterday,
yes.
I was mentioning this to Bendoche Malo. I think, you see, our constitution, these are, when you say it, then people say, oh, but the constitution, no. These are some things that must change. When the times change over 3 decades, you must change with them. Across swathes of Europe and even in America, very young leaders, 40s, 30s, are being elected. We are still here stuck with, what we are stuck with. And I'm not denigrating. I always say I'm not engaging in ageism. But we need a certain level of thinking. Even recently, when Biden and Trump collided on the debate front, you saw some things in there. My thinking leans along the Democrats, right? I think Trump, I'm not a fan. I've never hidden that. But if you listened carefully, you would realize that age is a factor. And, but anyway, that one there, let me just add this one. So it's an opinion by our very own Rodney Nkrumah Boateng. He says, has Kenya sparked a trend? When I read a bit of this, you should read that portion on page 10 of the Daily Graphic. It reminded me of the Arab Spring, which was started by the Jasmine Revolution or the Tunisian Revolution. These factors that sparked what we saw in Kenya are in so many African countries, including Ghana. It's not about, let's go and demonstrate. No. How will our leaders respond, thinking and policy-wise? Those are my concerns. And then health. GJA at 75 Association organizes free health screening for journalists in Tema. Kudos to the GJA. Quick reflections. We say goodbye to the Daily Graphic newspaper. I'll start with you, Kojo.
Yeah, thank you. I think on the drainage thing that you mentioned, there was a very interesting point that came up. There was this American project to address the drains problem in Greater Accra. And there was a huge project, and they were supposed to be counterpart funded. Now, I think in 2015, 2014, there was a set amount of money that was available, and there was a choice between, I think, the overpass in Kaswa and the Accra Drain Project. And the counterpart funding that the government at the time was supposed to bring for the Accra drainage project to match what the Americans were bringing in, the government said it didn't have money, but instead chose to do the Kaswa overpass. I remember this very well because I was on 3 News one day and I mentioned the story. And you should see the call in from our friends and brothers and our family in Kaswa saying that, Mr. Poku, how would you say that the overpass in Kaswa is very important? So we chose Kaswa overpass over the Accra drainage system, and that project was never done. The Americans brought the funding. Government did not find a counterpart funding for the drains in Accra, and we still have that problem today. So if somebody decided to bet on it, of course the person knows what they are betting on, because every government, successive government, has failed to invest massively in the drainage problem in Accra. Okay, let's move on to this Kenya issue. I think when you go on social media, you see people equating Ghana, and look, we have a different situation in Ghana. Yes, in any country, youth can rise up, but I beg to differ that Ghana is anywhere near to see what is happening in Kenya. Because if you look at the policies of the government in place, the government to come, Dr. Baumia's government, which is basically propagating a lot of his policies around the country, everything is geared towards bringing up standard of living, not basically tighten the tax screws around our neck, but releasing the burden. And everybody who is prepared to lead this government or prepared to leave Ghana should understand that Ghanaians now, if you try to ask more money from them, it's like drawing money from a rock. So look, I don't think we are in the same trajectory as Kenya. Our economy is doing much better than the Kenya economy. The austerities that we would have otherwise needed to come in 2025 had already gone through the IMF process, and we are basically doing well. So I beg to differ when people try to compare Ghana's situation and say, oh, can this happen in Ghana? No, it cannot happen in Ghana.
Kofi, your thoughts?
Ben, I heard that the far-right movement in France is estimated to see some notable success in elections, almost doubling what Macron's Renaissance Party is projected to reach. Look, I don't know much about this, but I'm not sure why far-right movements with all their anti-immigration and also nationalist posturing, I don't understand why they seem to be gaining grounds everywhere, from the U.S. to Europe. In my opinion,
it's scary, isn't it? It's scary, especially if you consider Marine Le Pen and everything that is happening in there. It's pretty scary.
No, but let me, I can spend a minute to explain
please, Kofi is on the floor now. Let him finish and then I'll come to you. Kofi?
And quickly, right, it might not be a very bad thing that they are surging, especially through the democratic process, and the voices of the voters must be respected. But I have concerns about their platform, right, when it comes to xenophobia and also discrimination.
Yeah.
Here in the U.S., we've heard such rhetorics from the right, such as immigrants poisoning the blood of America. And so when I think about that, I come to believe that far-right movements sometimes promote xenophobic and discriminatory ideologies, unfairly targeting immigrants like myself, right?
I agree with you.
And religious and also ethnic minorities and other marginalized groups. And I worry that their success may lead to increased discrimination and intolerance and social divisions within our society. That said, I think that Macron has no choice but to follow and respect the voices of the people in the interest of democracy. Now, quickly on Kenya, I will mention this quickly and I hand it over to you, Kujo. What President Ruto did, regardless of whether Ghana's economy is stronger than Kenya's economy, he listened to the people. He listened to the voices of the youth. There's been so many times that Ghanaians have spoken out against higher taxes that our leaders pretended that they couldn't even hear. There are a lot of things that are going on in Ghana today. There is a lot of incidences of sale of state properties that people speak out against, but nobody acts on it. It's like our leaders don't care about the voices of the people. So I'm not buying the whole argument that our economy is much better than theirs. It's about leadership, taking accountability, and also demonstrating that we can hear you, the average voter. I think that is more important than anything else.
Not to mention taxes, the very reason this finance bill for which the people went on demonstration, which sparked all of this. Kojo?
Yeah, quickly. You see, look, we need to go back into history 200 years, 300 years to understand why the nationalistic movements and the far-right movement are doing well. In the past, in history, the very reason for war, when communities were going to war, were to basically protect their territory and basically stop influx of people. That was the very reason. And one of the reasons was that they will go on to other lands to basically conquer and make it their own. This drive towards open borders, all-inclusiveness, has its downturn. So when you push that, it gets to a point when people tend to now resist. Now, the far right have movements that are very dangerous because of the minorities that they don't welcome. But we need to also the nationalistic nature of the human being. We can't downplay that. And if you look at across the world how this plays out in most countries, it's history. And we are pushing the boundaries of humanity to the point when within we will start revolting against it. And that is why you see that. So we need to balance it. I think this whole thing of open borders for all and all those things will eventually get a pushback. And I think that's what's happening in Europe and other parts of the country.
Let's quickly get into other stories. My new focus, the new find of newspaper. $1 billion IPP's debt restructured. Parliamentary approval required to finalize amended terms. I've heard members of the minority say this is actually not the case. Bawumia reconciles Napo Wontumi ahead of NEC decision on running mate, which is slated for Thursday, we are told. Let's scrap ex gratia. Backbin says so, those ex gratia payments. And I don't, for the life of me, understand why some people have been in office and every term they get ex gratia. But this is Ghana. Maybe time to right the wrongs. Gradual loss of trust for democratic rule calls for significant reforms. Francis Poku Esquire says so. So let's quickly get into some of those stories. I'll go to page 4 first and then head to page 8 for an additional 2 stories. Now, a former National Security Advisor, Mr. Francis Poku Esquire, has issued a stark warning about rising cases of corruption, youth unemployment, simmering internal conflicts, illegal mining, and geopolitical tensions, which he says are high alerts threatening Ghana's democratic stability. He predicted that Ghana risks facing, quote, another history if significant democratic reforms are not made by 2025. He warned, people are losing hope and gradually losing confidence in democracy. If the phase of democracy does not change after 2025, we're going to go through another history. I'm sure we understand what he's saying. Again, he gave the warning at the Republic Day lecture organized by One Ghana Movement on the topic Reflections on the Democratic Control over the Military, a way forward for sustainability at the Ghana Armed Forces Command Staff College in Accra. He referenced the 1979 revolution, emphasizing how warnings and advice to prevent it were ignored. Maybe the same way you say some things now, we are not there. Okay. 3 years before the 1979 coup, we had predicted the revolution clearly, he said. If that advice had been heeded, Ghana would have been a different country by now. We were going through a period of what you call anocracy, when you have a strong person who knows how to get rid of the rules. So, when he is not there, all kinds of things open up, anger and factionalism come up again, and governments don't survive. I'll end here. He continued by citing the period after Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's coup, noting that governments did not last for more than 27 months until the 1992 Constitution. I guess here I will add the words of Jesus in the Bible. He who has ears, let him hear. Let's go to other stories. I'll head to page 8 now. And there we are. So $1 billion IPP's debt restructured. The government has successfully restructured $1 billion in legacy debt owed to independent power producers, marking a significant milestone in the country's energy sector reform efforts. The negotiations, spanning several months, focused on restructuring power purchase agreements and clearing arrears accumulated over years of financial strain in the sector. So you can talk about the key components, including revised payment terms and adjustments to contractual obligations. You can talk about capacity charges. You can also talk about the 12 billion Ghana Cedi capacity charges in 4 years. Then, flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is working hard for an easy endorsement of his running mate, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, at the National Executive Council meeting. After presenting the name of the running mate to the President, the Majority Caucus and the National Executives, he has also reconciled Dr. Prempeh and the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the party, Bernard Intribu-Esiaku, commonly referred to as Chairman Wontumi. Of course, we know of a certain Apia Kubi who came out openly and said, well, this running mate thing, and some members supposedly of the minority end in Parliament. But who are we? Who are we? So let them reflect on it, and we'll see how things pan out. Quick thoughts, gentlemen. I'll start with you, Kojo.
Well, even Jesus Christ did not get the 100% of the people that basically he came to die for. Those very people who sang hallelujah and hosanna at the gates of Jerusalem were the same people who said crucify him at the end of the day. So nobody is perfect and nobody can get 100% support from everybody. As a party, our flag bearer has nominated Dr. Matthew Prempe as his running mate, and we will all support that decision and basically go ahead and win this election. The election is boots on the ground. It's a 275 constituencies that needs to go through in less than 150 days. We need a set of more than 4 people to canvass the country to do that. And Dr. Matthew Prempe, being a young, energetic individual, will come on board with the energy to match the energy of the flag bearer to do that. Anybody else who doesn't agree, yes, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of things we don't agree with, even our own household, but we still live with them. So let's move on. The IPP negotiation, okay, it's a good thing. It's to create space in the environment so that ECG will be able to meet its bills. We've always talked about the agreements, the power purchase agreements that were signed, that for us in the long term need to be sanitized. And this exercise is to be able to sanitize it, and the IPPs will be able to get some level of liquidity. There's no point having an agreement that the person who you have the agreement with is difficult to meet that obligation, be it is an agreement that's been signed and is binding. So I think the consensus is like, look, there's a thing where it's called leave and let's leave, okay? Yes, I have signed the agreement, but looking at the prevailing environment, can we all live together? And I think that renegotiation is a win-win for everybody. They want their money to work, and I think that is a good thing. The committee that I chair, the Energy and Petroleum Committee, which is the manifesto committee for Dr. Bawumia, has looked at a wide range of issues that will come in to further improve the sector. And we think that when given the chance, we will basically be able to improve this for Ghanaians to have affordable quality power going forward. What other issue is there?
That's it. Let me come to Kofi. Quick thoughts. We have to go.
But on the choice of Bawumia's running mate, or generally the choice of a presidential running mate, I think it's a serious business for any candidate, more so in this current state of Ghana's distressed economy, especially when it comes to solid leadership. So I don't think it should be more about the tribe of the potential running mate, but rather about competence and how well that person connects with the people. Look, I don't know Dr. Prempe very much, but here's what I know. Ben, first impressions are super important. The first time I watched him speak, all I saw is, and I don't mean to sound offensive to anyone, right? But all I saw when I first witnessed Dr. Opoku Prempe speak is I saw arrogance, a lack of accountability. And here's why. The man was asked about doing so and the need to provide a timetable. The way he answered the question, he even questioned the rationale of asking for a timetable.
Right.
And I think that's very disrespectful to the average Ghanaian who is on the receiving end of doing so. It shows a lack of touch with reality.
Right.
And out of this world disdain for the plight of the very people whose vote you need, and a complete abandonment of duty, complete lack of accountability, not an ounce of it. You will recall that this man, he tried to put a spin on Doomsaw and called it Doomsiesie. We need leaders who will have the interests of the people at heart.
Okay.
Maybe I should take more time to get to know him, right? But if I should go by first impressions, the man sounds like, and he acts like Ghanaians owe him an apology for something. For what? I don't know, right?
All right.
I had a majority leader, and Kojo also just
mentioned but Kofi, if you don't know him,
Kofi, you have to wrap on. You have to wrap on that point so we can go. Kofi, please wrap on that point.
But you see, in one breath, he says he doesn't know him.
Please let him wrap on the point, please. Kofi, wrap on the point. Let's go.
Look, all that I wanted to say is that, Kojo, you mentioned this, and a majority leader in parliament also mentioned this, that folks should be circumspect in the way they criticize him. But it's also important that we speak truth to power, what we say without fear, right? This is what I saw. This is what a lot of Ghanaians that I have talked to, this is what they see. A level of arrogance when the man was, I think it's the energy minister or something.
Yeah, so I think your point is made. 20 seconds, Kojo.
Well, I'm saying that, look, in one breath, he says he doesn't know him. Yes, first appearance is important.
He says he doesn't know him enough.
Again,
he says he doesn't know him
he
enough.
doesn't know him enough. Yes, exactly. So he wants to get to know him. I think he should leave it there, get to know him, and basically take it from there. I think that judging somebody that far from afar is not the best.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for having joined the conversation. No responses to this. I'll just leave you with the headlines from the Daily Guide. Freddie Blaze, user Blackwire and Media General. IGP leaked tapes, Superintendents Asari and Jibi lied. That's according to the report. Malam arrested for suspected ritual killing, and Snit assures continued stakeholder engagement. Well, thank you so much for joining the conversation. William, Wisdom, hey, my word, Wisdom Kofi Dogbe, my apologies, Wisdom Kofi Dogbe.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Financial analyst. And Kojo, do you have an English name?
Yes, Francis.
Francis Kojo Poku.
Francis Kojo in Safwa Poku.
Ah, in Safwa I know, but the Francis I think I've forgotten.
Francis, yes. Me and the Pope, we are all in the same category.
Okay, so Francis Poku Esquire was speaking yesterday, and today we've spoken to Francis Poku.
Another Francis Poku, well, yes, most definitely.
Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helped us bring you this segment. They're offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronoma Boy here behind the Angel Educational Complex, the Stakradi Anaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and the Siamanzima. You can actually call them on these numbers, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is up next. Do stay for that.